Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the No Easy Way Out podcast. My name is Tony Nash, and I am coming to you as always from the Armory in beautiful downtown Owasso, home to my company AZ Business Solutions, where we help grow your brand from A to Z. Now, I'm joined today by some very, very special guests, some VIPs, if you will, and I'm excited to introduce them to you. One of them, as you can see right now, is one of our employees, but also happens to be my sister, Tracy Reith. Sorry, she changed her name a few years ago. Tracy Reith, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. Thanks for being here. And next, I want to introduce you to my hero, the man, the myth, the legend, the one I want to be like when I get older, when I grow up, and that is my father, Mr. Charles Nash. Dad, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, son.
It's good to have you here. And then the last is the woman who always told me that you can't and never could until you tried. You hear me talk about her on every single episode, but she's actually the woman behind our little sign-off here, and that is my mother, Mrs. Debbie Nash. Mom, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
It's good to have you guys here. So I'm really, really excited about this episode, not just because, you know, I'm sitting around the table with my family, but because my mom and dad, you guys have had some really big milestones in your life this year, and I'm excited to talk about those. And that is, you both were able to retire in 2020. So congratulations, studio audience. Round of applause, please.
Thank you.
You can't applaud for yourself, sorry.
True.
But no, that's really exciting. I know, Mom, you wrote on the mirror in your bathroom back in August of 2019, I believe, right? That you were going to retire in 1 year, or you were going to retire in August of 2020. You just kind of put a goal that you'd have to look at every single day, which you did. And did you meet that goal?
I wanted to retire in August after Labor Day vacation, but I had to go 1 week after that.
So you missed it by 1 week, but that's amazing. So congratulations.
Trying to accommodate all the parents.
Yeah, congratulations, Mom, for your retirement. How many years did you work in the day? You ran an at-home daycare. How many years did you do daycare?
39 years.
So you couldn't make it to 40?
It was kind of a goal at one point until
You realized
around year 38. It wasn't that big of a deal anymore.
It's just a number, right?
Yeah.
So 39 years taking care of other people's kids. I mean, I don't even like taking care of my own kids, so taking care of other people's kids for that long is truly amazing. And I enjoyed growing up in an at-home daycare, all the kids breaking my toys, and a lot of fun. But we did get some pretty good treats because we got the daycare treats. But yeah, so congratulations, and that's awesome. It really was inspiring to see you set that goal and watch you actually go through with it and follow through with it. And so I know retirement has been interesting. We're going to talk about that here in a little bit, but I'm glad that you're not doing daycare anymore. And then, Dad, you've been working in the same place, Bourne Industries, for how many years?
44 years.
44 years in the same place. Now, before I started AZ Business Solutions, the longest job I had ever had was 3 years. I get bored doing the same thing for a long time. So the thought of doing the same thing for 44 years is not only amazing, but it scares me to death to think of that. But that is quite admirable. You come from that generation of blue collar where you just go to work and do what you got to do. And Dad did that. And not that my dad ever really loved his job, but he went every day. And he was the foreman for many, many years, worked his way up. And then in the last few years, he's been the truck driver. And you were able to retire from your job on December 15th?
Yes, sir.
December 15th. So congratulations, Dad. Again, studio audience, round of applause. Good job. So that's amazing. Absolutely cool that you guys were both be able to retire in the same year. And I know you're still, your employer is allowing you, because you had such a good record, to, when you want, to go drive for a day and just kind of get out of the house. Yeah. You can still do that, but you kind of do what you want now. So living the dream. So I'm really, really proud of you guys and excited for you. I know me and Tracy have been wanting you guys to retire for so long. Really the definition of blue collar. I mean, just worked hard every day their entire lives. Worked hard to put my sister and I through private school, Christian school, our whole lives. And even at times I remember them cleaning the school building in order to be able to afford for us to go to Christian school, and never complained about it. Always made sure that was a priority. Always made sure that we had what we needed, and really taught us a work ethic. And you probably wonder a lot why I'm so amazing and why Tracy's so amazing. A lot of people ask us that, and I would say we're going to give they don't wonder why, but you probably do. And we're going to give the credit to Mom and Dad, because they really taught us the value of hard work. And so this is why, you know, we say there's no easy way out, because we know that sometimes along the path to success, there's a lot of difficult things you have to overcome. And when you try to take the shortcuts or take the easy way out, you end up missing things along the way. And so, Mom and Dad, thank you so much for being such an example. Not only an example of hard work, but just being an example of what a godly husband and wife are. Both Tracy and I are in healthy marriages and have kids, and it's because we had an example in our parents to look at. And they built a Christian foundation. We're very, very strong in our faith. We're very involved in our church, and that's because when we grew up, my parents had a philosophy that we don't build church around our lives. We build our lives around the church. And so whenever the church doors were open or there was a church event, we were there. Whether that meant missing some ball games or missing some fun activities, we were going to be involved in the church. And now Tracy and I have kind of adopted that philosophy in our own lives with our kids, and now our kids are in Christian school and growing and doing really well. And someday you're going to be asking why they're so amazing, and I'll just take all the credit for that right now. No more to them. Now it goes to me. So, but the real reason I wanted to have you guys on today, celebrate a little bit, but I wanted to talk a little bit about your story over the past 5-6 weeks. And before I get into that, I want to preface this by saying I'm not a doctor. I have no medical training whatsoever. I'm not claiming that we have found a cure for COVID-19 whatsoever. I'm not even telling you that you should do what I'm about to talk about. But what I reason we wanted to do this podcast and why we all talked about it, because it's not like my parents were super excited about getting on camera and being in front of it. They're kind of behind the scenes people. But we wanted to share this story because we have experienced the hopelessness of this virus when you get it. And we found something that helped them and helped my sister and really turned them around 100%. And if it might help you, if it might help somebody, it would be selfish of us not to share it. Now, I have already shared their experience in just the form of a Facebook post. And it was, I don't know, about a paragraph or two, and just talking about my experience. Never claimed that we found the cure. Again, not a doctor. But in less than 24 hours, Facebook took it down for some reason, said it went against community standards, and that if I do something like that again, that they would limit my account. They've already restricted my account. So for whatever reason, Facebook doesn't want this information out there. I'll let you determine why that might be. But, I'm hoping that this video stays out. We're going to put it on a lot of different platforms for people to be able to watch it. But hopefully, if you or a loved one or someone you know is dealing with COVID-19, which, as we've said all along, is a very real virus, it still doesn't change my opinion on whether or not we should shut the entire world down for it. But I believe it's very, very real. Yeah. And we've experienced it. All four of us have had it. It's been through my family. It's been through Tracy's family. And it'll kick your butt. It's the real deal. But there's very little information out there after almost a year of this thing being around of how to get better from it. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to kind of share with you what they experienced and kind of the hopelessness they felt and what we found that really seemed like a miracle to us and completely turned things around. And as you see them today, looking fine, looking sexy, looking great, happy, smiling. Oh, yeah, there you go. They feel great. And Dad's back. He drove truck this week and last week a couple times. And Mom's taking care of the grandkids again. She's back on the treadmill. And so let's just talk about that a little. Let's start from the very beginning, okay? So, Mom, when was it that you started feeling sick? You were the first one to get it. I mean, I got COVID back in late July. And it was a summer thing, and my daughter had gotten it, and we and my wife got it. A few of the kids got it from her. And it wasn't super bad for us, maybe because it was the summertime, and a summer virus maybe isn't as strong. But we got it. We were sick for a couple of days, but we kind of bounced back. But when did you first start feeling sick? Not when did you get diagnosed, but when did you first start feeling sick?
Well, I actually have a date because I just talked to somebody. I was around in early November. And she had said she tested positive for it, and she works in the health community, so she has to test every week. And so she said on November 6th, she tested positive for it, but she said she wasn't sick at all, and So I thought, I was a little squeamish when she said that, you know, but so within the next week or so, I started feeling sick. And, and it, you know, it was like nothing I'd ever felt before. I mean,
Yeah.
I was at home alone because he was out driving truck, and I'd try to get up in the morning and I just sit in my chair and I'm just sitting there, and hopelessness is what it feels like.
Yeah.
It just feels like I don't know what's going on here, and I knew I could breathe better just laying in bed. So I went back to bed almost every day, just lay there in bed, and
No energy at all.
no energy at all.
And when was
it's
this?
not like a no energy day. It's like a fatigue you don't even, you know, you've never experienced before.
Yeah.
So
No, this was the middle of November?
that was, yeah, it was right around, I would say 10th, 11th of November.
Okay, wow, that's a while ago.
Yep, and so, and that went on until the day before Thanksgiving, and what was that, the 28th, 29th?
Yeah, the end of November.
Okay, the end of November. And I'm thinking it's Thanksgiving, it's holidays, I don't want to, you know, and I thought, I'm going to try to make pies with my granddaughters and stuff like that. So I pushed myself through that day, and by the end of that night, I was starting to feel a little bit better. You know, and Thanksgiving Day, I was like, I got through the whole day, I didn't feel that fatigue, I didn't feel that tiredness.
Yeah, and I remember you telling us you were,
Yeah.
for the first time, we were feeling better.
Yep, so I got through Thanksgiving, and I
And-
felt like I made it through. And
Real quick, before that, like, you hadn't really experienced any other COVID symptoms. It was just the extreme fatigue, right? I mean, right now, every
the
symptom
body
is
aches,
COVID, right?
yeah,
but
headaches.
I remember you said that your upper back hurt.
Had some pain in my upper back.
But you hadn't
Yeah.
really had fever or nausea or anything yet, had you?
It's hard to remember that far
Yeah.
back.
I
It
don't
wasn't-
think you did, because
no.
I had been calling you every day and asking you your symptoms, and you hadn't mentioned that. So
Okay.
Yeah. So you go through Thanksgiving feeling a little bit better, and really over the next week or two, right? You're feeling better. You went to a couple of
Feeling like I could do the day-to-day thing, but not quite get through everything. I just couldn't finish. And I remember telling Charlie one day, I said, the house looks like this, because I said I tried, I just couldn't get through it. And he says, I think it's lazyitis, because it was kind of the same everyday thing
Very
I was
supportive.
saying. Yep, yep. And within that,
he's still working and you're retired.
Right,
so,
right.
Yeah.
So, in that period of time, I remember I could get through some things, but I just was, I don't know if you want this part, but sweating through everything. Everything I did, I just sweat so much.
Yeah.
And I had a headache every day. And I was thinking it was a post-COVID thing, because I had a friend that was saying her husband had a headache every day, and it was a post-COVID thing. So I just didn't think much of it.
And at this point, why had you not gotten tested?
Well, because I didn't want to go to the hospitals. I just thought, if I can get through this, if it is COVID, you know.
And because everyone we know that had ever been tested, it's not like if they say you're positive, they can do anything for you.
Right.
Now you just go on the numbers, you get quarantined for 2 weeks, but there's no treatment.
Right.
So I know for me, like I have felt multiple times, like what's the point in getting tested? Because if I feel sick, I'm going to stay home and I'm going to quarantine myself. I'm responsible. I know how to handle this, just like every time I've been sick. So didn't get tested because it's not like, okay, now that I'm positive, here's some treatments. We
Yeah.
knew that didn't exist.
Right. Well, and a nephew of mine had COVID, and our symptoms were just really the same. So I just assumed it, stayed home, you know. But around, and I think the only reason I remember the date is because we had a ball game that night.
and it was the same day that Dad retired.
Yep. So that was what, the
15th,
15th?
December.
Okay. So,
Celebration.
So that was a Tuesday. I just remember trying to get on the treadmill on Monday, or the elliptical on Monday, try to get all my energy back, because I just still couldn't get through things.
Yeah.
And I just remember just still weak on the elliptical, and I felt something go down my throat, almost like my windpipe. I felt it go down, and then I was hoarse for a few minutes, and I thought, what in the world? And I ended up getting off of it after about 10 minutes. And so that night, the whole next day, I was just really cold. And that night, I made myself get up. I'd been in bed all day, got up and went to this ball game, you know, thinking I'm not thinking it's COVID, because I'm thinking I already had it. And then the next day on, for the next two, I mean, we went through Christmas just in bed, sick. I'm trying to remember what day. I was so sick that I had to go to the emergency room. And
it was like it was like 2 days after that, I remember.
Okay,
A couple days
so-
after that.
And you were partly wondering if this was your heart or something, just because
You
the
had
upper
heart-
back
it's been
pain,
going on for so long, the heart racing whenever you would do any little
not being
thing.
able to breathe right.
Yeah, so that's partly why you even went to the ER.
Just wanted to make sure everything was okay on that
And they
level.
tell you after you get COVID, whether you have symptoms or not, quarantine for 2 weeks, and then you're not contagious anymore. I mean, the health department told us that. After 10, actually, they say after 10 days of your first symptoms, you're not contagious anymore. So you've been well past that.
Oh, yeah.
And you're just at this point thinking you're experiencing the after effects, if you will, of COVID.
Well, at this point, I knew something was pretty wrong because it took me half a day to even get ready to go. It was just, it was that week. And so I went and
Yeah, I remember you
they
calling
treated
us.
me really good, got me right in a room, checked everything out.
Well, I remember you calling us a couple days before saying, I think I'm going to go to the emergency room. And then you didn't. And then the next day, I
Right.
think I'm going to. And your fear of going to the emergency room was what?
Well, you guys were always saying if I just do everything you can to stay out of the emergency rooms because or out of the hospital because they're just not treating COVID. They're
and you
just,
had to go in alone. And
Well,
yeah, and being alone. So
earlier in the year, to give some context, we had lost our grandmother. And
Yeah.
she didn't have COVID, but she went in for a routine surgery during COVID. And her surgeon said everything went as good as it could have possibly gone. And after a routine surgery, she ends up in the hospital and then ends up in the ICU and ends up on a respirator. And even 10 minutes before she was ready to die, they knew she was done. They wanted to come in and test her for COVID.
yeah.
And the way she was treated in the hospital, because all the employees had been sent home, I mean, these hospitals were empty, and this was in June. And they just had very little care. My grandmother telling us, like, multiple times throughout the night, trying to get somebody to come in and give her a drink of water or just nobody would come in. The care she received was so poor, and then she ended up dying. And so this idea that you're hearing all these nightmare stories on TV and on the media that people that end up in the ICU on the respirator are not making it out.
not
And
to
so-
mention she was alone, and none of us could go up there.
Exactly. So she was all by herself, and that hit our family pretty hard. And the fact that they wanted, even though it had nothing to do with COVID, they wanted so badly to put COVID as the cause of death, even to the point where we had to ask the surgeon or her doctor to make sure that they didn't put COVID as the cause of death on her death certificate. So we as a family kind of had this like concern about ending up going to the ER, hospital being short-staffed, and then just saying, well, we're going to throw you in the ICU because I can't breathe, put you on a respirator, and then you're by yourself. And so that was kind of the hesitation. And maybe, that's not, maybe that's not the right strategy, but, certainly has made us have a little pause when thinking of just relying on the hospital because they're so short-staffed right now. And so you guys went to St. John's and, a little leery about going to our local hospital. So you went to St. John's, and what happened there?
Well, I got really good care as far as getting in, and they ran a bunch of tests, and they, checked everything that's important, your lungs, your heart, and all that kind of stuff. And they said that, I can't remember exactly what he said as far as when they released me, just go home, and they were really testing for COVID. And they had called the next morning really early, and I noticed it was a hospital, so I made sure I answered the phone, and I was feeling really sick. But prior to that, when they released me, I just remember crying half the way home because I was so sick, and they're just sending me on my way, and
Right. Nothing we can do for you.
right, nothing they could do for us. And so they called real early the next morning and said, Mrs. Nash, you have COVID. We want you to quarantine and all that kind of stuff. And I had to set the phone over next to me, and I was throwing up at the time. But I didn't want to miss the call because they're calling because of the COVID diagnosis and all that. And by the end of it, they know I'm sick on the phone, and they said, if you feel unstable, just come on back. But they're really just no help at all. They just didn't know.
While you're throwing up.
Yes, no,
Advice.
no instructions on to do
No
anything.
recommendations.
Try this,
Yeah.
none of that.
Just
So-
if you can't breathe, come back.
So to go back to the hopelessness, you lay there sicker than you've ever been, and with nothing,
Yeah, and
So-
even the doctors don't give any recommendations on take this vitamin, try to get some sunlight, nothing.
Absolutely nothing.
So, and then I remember you asked, what about my husband? because he's a type 2 diabetic, he's elderly, he's a cancer survivor, he checks all the boxes of someone they say you don't want to get COVID, should he be around me, and they say just have him quarantine with you. So we're like, okay, so now he's going to get it for sure. You know, they don't even say have him wear a mask, nothing, just say have him quarantine around you. So anyways, so he quarantines, and obviously he already had started quarantining, but sure enough, 2 days later,
2 days,
Dad starts feeling sick. And we obviously know he's got COVID. So now at this point, Tracy and I both know Mom and Dad have COVID. Mom's been, not feeling right for about 4 weeks at this time. Dad's now sick, and he just retired. We wanted to do some kind of a celebration, but weren't able to do that. And so then Dad starts feeling sick, and so we're a little worried. And so Tracy and I both were making it a point. We're calling them every 2 hours. I remember I'm literally almost every 2 hours on the dot calling you guys and how you feeling now. And
just flooding us with vitamins and
well, yeah, but I mean, at the
anything
beginning,
you guys can think of.
right? And every time I called them, literally every time, it was they were feeling worse than they were before. It was never like, oh, we're feeling a little bit better. And I think they were even trying to hope that they were feeling better, but just being honest, like it's not turning a corner. And so we're trying to figure out in our minds, like, what do we do? We're doing research. We're talking to other people that have had it. They've both called their doctors. Their doctors give them absolutely nothing. And so we're worried. Go ahead.
I actually did call my doctor, and I asked for the what's it called?
Hydroxychloroquine.
Yes.
Hydrochloroquine, which had been recommended by a lot of people. And we know some people that had COVID that took it and it helped them feel better.
And they'd never even heard of it.
Which is hard to believe.
Yeah.
So they say.
They never even heard of it, and so I told the receptionist, I guess. I said, well, I'm so sick. I said, I need something. I'm coughing up blood. I just need something. And so she did order me a 5-day antibiotic. Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Which won't treat a virus, so that really wasn't.
no, but in case the throwing up blood
Right.
was pneumonia and stuff.
Right.
So
Well,
yep.
we had a couple of people that we know that was able to get hydrochloroquine, and with COVID, and it helped them feel a lot better. So, and of course, there's been all kinds of videos put out about it that have been just scrubbed from the internet. I mean, there was those frontline doctors that said they've had a high success rate with it, and literally within 24 hours, I mean, they were off Twitter, off Facebook, off YouTube, off Instagram. Even their website got taken down. And so, I guess, maybe them trying to control the narrative or what it is. Obviously, I don't want to get in today to what my opinion on all that is. I'll let you make your opinion about why you think they would try to do that.
Yeah.
But the doctors acted like they had never heard of hydrochloroquine. It's been around for a long time. They've treated it for a lot of things, and it's a very safe drug. But anyways, so there's nothing there. So, Mom and Dad are both sick. I'm actually now, about a week after, I'm actually in this room getting ready to do a podcast with Zach, and I get a call from my mom crying saying, get over here, your dad just passed out. And I'm like, did you call the ambulance? And they're like, no, just get over here. Now me wanting to take care of my father, but also thinking, I don't want to get COVID. I have a business to worry about. I have my own family to worry about as far as spreading it to them. I can't afford to quarantine right now. So I masked up, gloved up, head over there and, to check on him. And Dad was, at that time, he was in bed feeling a little bit better. He had passed out because his blood sugar had gotten up to almost 500, which is very dangerous, very dangerous. And so we talked about, what he had been doing. He hadn't had a lot of water. He'd been drinking a lot of orange juice for vitamin C, but orange juice has a lot of sugar in it, so that didn't help.
Well, I think ultimately what it was, we had some friends give us what's it called? Nebulizer.
Yes.
And he was doing albuterol, and that raised his sugar.
And albuterol had
The
steroids,
steroids,
and of course, if you're diabetic, you're not supposed to take those kind of steroids.
Right.
And it did.
Again, self-diagnosis. We're over there doing everything we can do,
Right. So then after that, again, still getting worse. Then we find out that Tracy started feeling sick. She started to lose her taste and smell, her and her husband. And so they had been around my parents before they had got their diagnosis. So they went and got tested because Kevin has to for his work. And they found out that they had it. And Kevin didn't really experience much other than loss of taste of smell, but Tracy started feeling really, really sick, to the point where she was having trouble breathing. And so I, again, started doing research. We came across, we got them, we had them on zinc. We went and got them some vitamin C, vitamin C 1000, vitamin D3, and we're putting them on like 50,000 DUIs of vitamin D. I think it was 10,000 of vitamin C, the zinc. We even got them some vitamin A. And then we found this thing through our local health food store called Clear Lung that they recommended, which actually really helped help them breathe.
Yeah.
It cleared up their lungs. Now, it wasn't making them feel better overall, but it was helping them breathe a little better. Of course, when you know you're having a hard time breathing, that relief is everything. And so that's another thing, your local health food store, if you can find Clear Lung, if you're having a hard time breathing, that might help as well. But still not getting better. And so Tracy and I both at different times, different places, looking at what we can do, we both came across this thing called ivermectin. So at this point, I got all three of them sick now, and I'm trying to think, what we can do. And I've talked to several people. And actually, the day that Dad had passed out, I had brought you guys the day I came over, I showed you this video that I found on TikTok of all places, of these doctors talking about ivermectin. So the video that I had found that was on TikTok was these doctors talking about how they had treated patients with, number one, they were lung and pulmonary specialists. There was 25 of them. They have over 2,000 published works. They're experts in their field. When COVID came out, they had done everything, they had read everything you could possibly read about COVID-19. And they were concerned because as a group of doctors, they had noticed that there hadn't been one task force initiated to study existing drugs. They have over 100 years of drugs that we've been using, and nobody wanted to study existing drugs. All that the talk was about was developing something new, a new vaccine, a new treatment. And so they said, well, let's start looking at existing drugs. These are physicians concerned about people's lives and health. And so they said, we started treating them with ivermectin. Now, ivermectin has been around since the 70s. It won the Nobel Peace Prize in 2015. It's considered on the World Health Organization one of the top 10 safest drugs in the world because there are literally zero harmful side effects, and it's so inexpensive. And so I showed them that video, and then we started talking about it. I talked to them about it on 2 occasions. At the same time, Tracy had come across ivermectin. We hadn't talked to each other about it. And she started seeing stuff about it. And of course, these videos, I'm trying to look them up, and they keep getting taken down off the internet. Why are they taking these videos down? And then Tracy, you came across it. What were you finding?
Well, until it was actually the day of Mom's diagnosis, I had a couple of friends, and I follow a lot of people on Facebook they always take the more natural route, and I hadn't even really seen any of them state how they had COVID through this whole thing. And just so happened that day that Mom got diagnosed or got the positive test, 2 of them came up. They're not friends. They weren't together, and talked about they both just got over it and stuff they did, and they both mentioned ivermectin. So I'd never heard of it. I talked to one of them, and they said it was an anti-parasite drug that they give to animals. And I thought, okay, I'm not going to.
Shady.
I'm not. Well, I was not. I was okay with it because it's me. But I was like, I'm never going to convince my parents to take this. So at that point, I kind of just thought, okay, well, I'm going to do everything else they're saying to do for my parents, and we'll just kind of forget about that. And then Tony called me 2 days later and was like, have you ever heard of ivermectin? And I'm like, yeah. And so that's kind of what the stuff that they were sharing with me was from a medical school, again, a pulmonologist, very, very well certified. And the website that I'd went on with his findings was he had posted something about the prophylactic stage, and then the stage that we were all in, and then the stage where it's
Advanced.
Getting to the end. And he tested hydroxychloroquine, remdesivir, a few other things like corticosteroids, and then ivermectin. And some of them were beneficial in certain areas, but ivermectin was beneficial in every single stage.
All stages.
Every single stage.
Yeah.
And that was the only one that was beneficial in every single stage. So I thought,
And
wow.
this is what I was reading as well, separately.
Separately.
So then I remember calling Tracy and saying, have you heard of this ivermectin? And she's like, yes. And we started talking about it. and we'll talk about where she found it here in just a second. But I want to get to Dad. I want to skip over this. So you know how Mom was feeling. You know how Tracy was feeling. How were you feeling? I mean, as a diabetic and all the different things, you survived cancer in 2019. Like, what were the things you were feeling?
Well, it was probably the sickest I've ever been in my life.
Yeah.
Had no energy. I'd get up out of bed and walk through the house a couple times, and it would wear me out so
Wipe you out.
fast. I'd go back and lay back down. Couldn't eat. Sick to my stomach, achy all over. It was like worse than a bad flu. Okay. And like I said, at one point I passed out. And at a couple different points, I felt like, is this ever going to be over?
Right.
And I honestly thought I was going to die. I really did. And I'm so thankful for my kids, who you two just made sure we had what we needed, took care of us. And I'm so thankful for that. And my church praying for me. I was really thankful for that. I know all of that helped big time.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy.
Yeah.
I mean, I was really that sick.
Yeah. And listen, my parents had taken precautions all year. I mean, they avoided big gatherings. They would wear their masks when they were outdoors. My dad driving truck all over the state, wearing his mask, taking safe precautions. He gets temperature checks every morning going into work. Actually, while Mom was sick, you had gotten tested for COVID twice, and both were negative. So had been tested regularly. I mean, they were taking all the precautions that they tell you to, avoiding, keeping distance from people, all the things that they were, and yet they still got it. And so, obviously at this point, we're worried. And I also know something about my parents, that if they tell me how they're feeling, it's probably actually a little worse than what they're telling, because they don't want to worry us. But it got to the point towards the end where they were just being brutally honest. Like, we're not going to we're going to die. Like, they felt hopeless.
Yeah.
And I was really worried. And
I remember thinking at the point where he passed out, I said, I feel like I need somebody over here. I think I told you, we need somebody over here taking care of us, because we're doing everything wrong,
yeah.
And
Yeah, they had wanted someone to come take good care of them, and I'm thinking to myself, I can't put myself in that environment, because I have 6 kids and I have these employees, and so you're
you
in
guys
this.
actually did take care of us. You just did it at a distance,
Right, but we're trying to think of what's the right thing to do. We even suggested, Tracy, could you go take care of him since you already have it? But she was feeling weak, and she's got 2 little girls at home, and her husband works full time, and how are we going to make all this work? And so we found this ivermectin. I called Tracy, and she started doing some research, and she found it of all places at TSC, Tractor Supply Company. They do have it in pill format. We couldn't find it. Doctors will not prescribe it for COVID. They will prescribe it for certain things, but not for COVID. So we couldn't get a hold of it. We found it at TSC for $2.99. It comes in a box with a tube. It's like a paste or a gel. And a little syringe. You buy the box for $3, and it's enough for a 1,250-pound horse. So listen. I want to be clear.
There's a few doses in there.
Yeah, there's a few doses. That's that's at least 3 of me. So, I wanted to make sure, before I give my parents, who are already dying, honestly, before I give them something, I wanted to make sure that I've read up enough stuff about this. I've talked to enough professionals. I even talked to some people in the medical profession that had nothing bad to say about ivermectin. And on the box, there's no warning of harmful side effects. It's safe for human consumption. So we measured it out. You measure it by weight. And it was on a Tuesday. It took 6 days to come in. We ordered it. So I wish we could have just went and got it, because this would have helped a lot sooner. But literally,
I remember I think it was maybe after you took Dad to the ER because he couldn't breathe. You said, Tracy, I just think we should order this ivermectin. And I said, okay. I mean, if you think we can convince them to take it, I'll order it. And so that's when I ordered it.
That's right.
Whenever that was.
Yeah, that's right. Dad had called. Mom had called and said, it was like 5 in the morning, the day after Christmas. You got to take Dad to the ER. I'm like, did you call the ambulance? No, he doesn't want to ride an ambulance. So I'm like, all right, I guess I'm just going to get COVID now. So I get up, I put gloves on, I put a mask on, I show up, I back in so that my dad can get in on the side of the vehicle. And here comes my mom with him. And I'm like, what are you doing? She's like, I'm going up there with him. I'm like, they're not going to let you in. And she's like, well, we'll sit in the parking lot together. I'm like, well, I guess I'm sitting in the parking lot for several hours now. So we're driving up there, and I'm in the hot box now with these 2. And I'm thinking, all right, Lord, you know what's happening. And so we get to the hospital, and as I pull up, my mom goes, go in with your dad. And I'm like, they're not going to let me go in. And she says, no, go in with him. So I go in with him, and I remember my dad's panicking. He's having a panic attack, and he's not breathing well, and he's got the mask on, which is helping him, making him even harder for him to breathe. And the doctors would not let him pull it down, anything. And the first thing they said is, do you want to go in to the ER with him? And I was going to say no, and immediately he goes, yes. So I'm like, okay, now I'm going into the ER. I'm going into the danger zone. So I better just start calling people and tell them you're not going to see me for 14 days. So we get in there, and they just wouldn't let him take his mask off. He's laying down. He's having a hard time breathing, and they're being so nonchalant. Like, my dad is panicking, and it's making him breathe even harder. And I'm thinking, I got to calm this guy down. It's not working. And he's fidgeting with this. Number one, he's touching his face and mask way more than you should. They wouldn't let him take it off. So I said to the doc, I said, hey, can you get him a face shield or something? Oh, yeah, we can get him a face shield. What was funny about that is they put this face shield on him, and he's laying on his back. So the face shield's out here. He's just breathing out into the air, but they wouldn't let him take his mask off. I'm like, I don't understand any of this.
Science.
I'm not a doctor. But, you know, I guess I'm a science denier. But anyways, so I asked the doctor. He comes in and goes, so, Doc, what does this mean for me now? You know, give it to me straight, Doc. he says, well, you need to quarantine for 14 days. And I said, well, I've already had COVID. He goes, oh, you've already had it? When? I said, back in July. He goes, oh, you're fine then. I goes, what do you mean you're fine? I said, they say you can get it again. He goes, yeah, you can, but it's very, very rare. So you just go by your own conscience. If you start feeling sick, maybe stay away from people. Tell people around you that you've been around somebody. And, of course, I haven't felt sick again. So who knows what to believe. So, yes, it was after that we brought – so they test him for COVID. They do a rapid test. And the doctors literally said, if you have pneumonia, we'll keep you. If you're having heart problems, we'll keep you. But if you have COVID, we're going to have to send you home. So I'm like, this is the deadliest virus ever known to man. Shut the whole world down for a year. But if you get it, we're going to send you home to die, basically. Yeah. And they say, come back if you can't breathe. So I'm like, man, nobody's helping us here. I mean, like, what in the world is going on? And so that's when I called Tracy and said, let's just try it. You know, at this point, what's the worst that could happen? And we get it on a Tuesday. Tracy administers it by weight. Literally, after my mom, 5, 6, 7 weeks of progressively feeling worse, my dad, after 2.5 weeks of progressively feeling worse, multiple trips to the ER, trying every kind of natural thing we can try. Tracy, after a week of feeling worse, thinking she might go to the hospital because she can't breathe. They take it on the same day, and within hours, literally within 4 or 5 hours, they all start to feel better. My mom gets up and cleans her kitchen for the first time. And you know, the house wasn't looking good. When I went in there, I was like, holy cow, because they hadn't been able to clean for 4 weeks, you know. And one of the things we said is as soon as they're better, we're going to go clean the house for them. And normally my mom keeps a clean house, so I knew, you know, obviously it wasn't good. But she gets up and does her dishes, and she felt good. And then literally, I'm telling you right now, within 48 hours, all 3 of them felt like almost 100%, completely recovered. Completely recovered within 48 hours. Now, if you watch this video that I'm about to play, and this is where I want you to play the video. If you watch this video, they're going to tell you in this video that they're treating patients with COVID. They're treating COVID patients with ivermectin. They're having 100% success rate, 100%. And that if you take it in the early stages, you won't get sick. If you take it when you are sick, you'll get better within 48 hours. The only way it may not work is if you're in the very late stages, but they still recommend trying it. Of course, these doctors had to testify before Senate. They're completely trying to discredit them and remove them from the internet. My question is why? Even if the doctors don't have to say this is a cure for COVID, why can't they say take this as a prophylactic or try this, maybe it will make you feel better? So again, I'm not going to answer that question. You have to answer why they wouldn't want that information out there. But I wanted to share our experience because 3 people got better within 48 hours of taking this thing.
Doctors could soon have a new tool in their arsenal for the fight against coronavirus. One America's Pearson Sharp has more on the medicine that researchers in Australia say could cure the virus in just 48 hours.
The fight against coronavirus could have a powerful new weapon. It's called ivermectin. News out of Australia has revealed doctors are now successfully using the drug to treat patients infected with the coronavirus, with one doctor saying it makes corona very simple to kill. So far, the medicine hasn't been widely used against the coronavirus specifically, but is typically used for parasitic infections. However, a peer-reviewed study led by Monash University back in April found that even a single dose of the drug could kill the coronavirus in less than 48 hours. Ivermectin is well established and has been available since the 1970s. It's FDA approved and is on the World Health Organization's list of essential medicines. That means it has very few side effects and is considered one of the safest drugs in the world. In fact, in 2011, a scientific journal in Japan, where the medicine is originally from, called ivermectin a wonder drug, on the same level as penicillin and aspirin. And it's not only potent, it's also very inexpensive. The wholesale cost for a course of treatment is just 12 cents, meaning it's a safe and widely available treatment for the coronavirus. Australian doctor and Professor Thomas Borody is spearheading efforts to raise awareness for the drug's effectiveness.
It's an antiparasitic. It sits across South America, quite a bit in the USA, also India and Bangladesh. And in those places where trials between 80 and 160 patients were done, the amazing and surprising thing is there's not one paper where it was successful less than 100%. That is the actual factual result. It is curative within 6 to 8 days.
He says when used in combination with two other drugs, an antiviral called doxycycline and zinc, that ivermectin is amazingly effective in treating the coronavirus. The medicine works by allowing healthy cells to quickly remove the virus, preventing it from taking hold. Dr. Borody adds that countless doctors and frontline workers around the world, including himself, are already taking this treatment as a preventative against the coronavirus.
If we use a preventative combination of ivermectin every, say, 2 weeks, it would work like a vaccine, but it would not only cure, vaccine doesn't cure, and prevent recurrence as long as you took it for 1 year, 2 years.
Even doctors in the U.S. are having success with the drug. Doctors in Broward County, Florida, say they're already curing coronavirus patients with ivermectin and seeing a near 100% success rate.
If we get to those people early, and what I mean by that, if their oxygen requirements are less than 50%, I've had nearly a 100% response rate. They all improve.
Patients using the medicine are claiming it saved their lives.
And I'm blessed with that medicine because I didn't know what was going to happen. It saved my life. Trust me, it saved my life.
It's not clear how other medical experts in the U.S. will respond to this latest discovery. But with options like hydroxychloroquine and now ivermectin on the table, many say Democrats' refusal to make these medicines available is no different than murdering the patients who need them but can't get them. Pearson Sharp, One America News.
I posted that post on Facebook. It got several thousand views within that first 12 hours. I got over 50 messages overnight. And we know of several other people now that have tried ivermectin, and it has made them feel better. It's cured them of COVID. I don't want to use the word cured, but it just made them feel better. And then you know of someone that through someone in our church messaged us. They had heard about it, and tell them what happened.
It was a couple probably the same age as my parents, and they're calling this complete stranger for advice. They had been
no
sick.
Hope.
They had been sick for 15 days. The exhaustion, the husband had the cough, and just was not getting better. And so they called me, and they had already taken a dose or two. But the protocol does say if you are one that doesn't feel better after 48 hours, you can consecutively take it for up to 5 days. And so they did that. And they texted me this morning and told me that the wife said, she's up making her bed. She hasn't done that in this whole time. She is having her husband go outside and get in the sun because they live in Florida. And she said, we are progressively getting better. It's going the right direction. And before that, clearly they had no hope because they're calling someone they don't even know and asking for advice. Yeah.
And of course, if you watch the news, which everybody does at some level, all they tell you is doom and gloom. Every day you see up there a ticker, this many people died, this many cases, these businesses are closed, you can't go to this place, stay away from your family, stay away from... You hear all this stuff, And that mental thing your brain is all connected. And when you have that, it adds to the fear, which adds to the stress, which makes the virus even stronger. And, it's a tough thing. And so I want to ask now, as we can kind of conclude our episode here, and if you're still with us, thank you for sticking around. I hope you can share this with some people and it will help them, as just a recommendation of something to try. Again, we're not doctors, but we're just saying this is what worked for us. But Mom, how are you feeling today?
I feel great. I got up on my elliptical actually for the first day. Well, Monday was the first day. And I keep relating it to that because when I would try it, all my muscles were so weak. Everything was just, within 10 minutes, I'm getting right back off it. So I've got 2 full days in this week, and that's back to normal. That is literally 100% normal.
Amazing. Dad, how are you feeling?
I feel 100%. Last week I drove 2 10-hour days and an 8-hour day, put in over 1,000 miles in 3 days. And then this week, I've driven this week and I feel great. I do wear my mask when I go out. I wash my hands a lot. I don't have a problem following that. I don't think it really helps, but I don't have a problem doing that. Yeah. But I feel 100%. I feel as good as I did before I got to COVID.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay.
I started feeling good pretty much the day after I took it. So I've been I'm back to baseline. I'm back where I was, and I'm not one that normally gets sick. Living in daycare, it would go through the entire house and I wouldn't get it. But if I did ever get sick, I would only get sick 1 or 2 days, maybe. And it wasn't ever like I can't get out of bed sick. This was different. And it was just every single day you kept waking up, I'm sick, I'm sick, I'm sick. And you just weren't getting better. And that is so unlike anything I've ever had. So you just start thinking like this is never going to end, or it's going to end badly. So
is it safe to say you guys feel as strong as a horse?
Yes.
So we can blame the horse ivermectin on that.
Yes. And none of us
Now, I did tell them if they start craving hay or odd things like that to let me know, but so far nothing. None
of us have had any side effects whatsoever.
Especially me.
I haven't had any side effects from the ivermectin. I mean, I just feel like, this is something that's been around for so long, as well as, the HCQ. And it's like, if we can try things that are just produced at a warp speed, then why can't we try this?
Right, right.
I can, you look at it and it looks gross. But
and it tastes
what
gross.
we did, and it tastes gross. But when you're that sick, you're willing to try just about anything.
I recommend doing it when you lose your taste and smell.
Yes, that's what I did. So it didn't affect me at all.
The way we did it is we put it on a spoon, put it at the back of our tongue with a glass of water in your hand, and just swallow it down. Yeah. And it goes down, and the taste is gone.
Goes down smooth.
And but again, it helped us. I credit that in the prayers from my church. I credit those.
And I say, if even it helps one person, when we have this disease out there, virus out there that's killing so many people, why not? Yeah. If it doesn't help you, it's not going to hurt you. Well,
I recommend, as always, do your own research.
Yep.
There's a lot of. We're going to put some article or some links in the post here. There's a friend of mine has actually started a website called the Ivermectin Journal, where he has mountains of research and data, and he's also journaling how he feels after he's taking it as a prophylactic, and he tells all about it. There's videos, there's links. So do your own research. This was originally presented by these doctors back in May, and the Senate said there's just not enough. There's not enough data on it to go to clinical. It needs to go through clinical trials for the FDA to approve it. That's been since May. In August, they presented again. There's still been no clinical trials, and they're saying it's just not enough data. So the question you should ask, and what we're asking, is why. We had a vaccine that was literally called Operation Warp Speed, and that they're recommending everybody take it with very few clinical trials. I mean, with the less time of clinical trials than they've had to do ivermectin that's been around for
years.
Almost 50 years. So again, that's for you to do your own research. Google it. Use DuckDuckGo if you want. Look at the links in the comment or in the description below, and maybe it will help you. But I'm going to ask each of you guys to say if you knew of someone, or if someone were to call you that was struggling with COVID, what would you tell them?
I would definitely tell them ivermectin. I'm actually going to take some over to a friend later, so
Okay.
absolutely.
I've been telling everybody I've been talking to about ivermectin, and like I said, I deliver in Detroit, Ohio, all over the place, and at every stop I tell them about ivermectin. If I knew of a person that had COVID, I would definitely share this with them.
Right.
Oh, well, of course I would tell them about it. I would also tell them, though, you know, because you're not getting any direction from the doctors and you are feeling so just like out in this ocean of COVID that you're being programmed to fear every single day alone. You're out there alone. Definitely take the vitamins. Definitely drink the water. Definitely, if you have any little bit of energy, walk around. Reach out to me and I can help you too, because that's what helped is so many people sending us stuff and friends and people that have done research that you just do not feel like doing when you're sick, sending us. It just felt like a you know, just like a lifesaver, literally.
Yeah.
And that's one reason why I wanted to do this too, because if you do have it, this is not going to be, you're not going to find this in the media, you're not going to see it at your doctor's office, and your doctor will probably laugh at you even if you said it to them. So, and then yes, definitely the ivermectin for sure.
So vitamin A, vitamin C, vitamin D,
D3.
Yep. Try to get some clear lung.
Zinc.
All those things, zinc. All those things will help. And then try some ivermectin. Again, do your own research and make sure it's something that you feel like you want to do. But it's really, really helped us. And so, guys, thank you for coming on and sharing this. Hopefully it'll be a help to some people. I think it was the right thing for us to do. We're definitely not being paid by ivermectin.
No.
We're not ivermectin spokesmen.
I don't think
matter of fact,
they don't sell it for
matter of fact,
enough
if you
to-
call TSC right now, they're going to ask you why they've had a run on it since for the last couple of weeks, and they're going to ask you what you're getting it for. So don't tell them you're taking it for COVID. Just tell them you're trying to treat your dog or your horse or whatever. But
They're on to us.
but again, we wanted to share this, you know, just as hopefully to help or encourage somebody out there. Share this with your friends,
Yep.
and you know, may we all get past this very, very soon. And so, again, thank you for joining us today. As my mother always says,
Can't never could till you tried.
can't never could till you tried. So go out there and try something great, my friends, and don't take the easy way out. We'll see you next time.